Good morning, friends. Thanks for joining us here at Journey Home Meditation for the morning sit. I am Michael, and I am happy to be here this morning with each of you. Not nice. You know that breath that you take when you actually begin to settle into your body and into your whatever it is you're doing. That's such a wonderful breath. It's like that first sip of coffee, or I used to be a smoker for a lot of years, and I remember that one of the things that still brings me back into some deep, long memory from childhood was the smell of a Camel cigarette that was lit with a Zippo lighter. That first smell, I think it takes me back to my grandfather when I was very, very, very young, 2 or 3 years old, and he would light that first cigarette, that first puff that you would smell. There's something sweet and alluring about that. It's the same with that first sip of coffee. There's just something that brings you into this nostalgia of something older, or like you're entering into something special. And then I know there might be judgments about, tobacco or whatever judgments we want to place on anything. But that's just the simple truth, is that there are these sensations that we receive that, when we are present with them in just that moment, bring us into some deeper recognition. It's not deep as in, the philosophies and, the spiritual teachings necessarily. It's just takes you into this other layer of memory and our experience. And it's probably meaningless to anyone else in a lot of ways, but I think about these things. I think about are these attachments, are these the things that, we're talking about, or are these the sort of signposts on our journey that remind us of this experience? We can get so wrapped up in our own existence, and it can feel so big, and we forget, how much more we've experienced in this world. We forget that we are bigger than the stress we are experiencing in the moment, or that we are bigger than the pain that we are in, or we are larger than the fear that we are experiencing. And I guess that's what is the underlying love that I have for those little sensory jaunts down into the memories, is that they are just these little visceral reminders that I'm bigger than this experience right now. I'm more vast. I've got more to me than this anxiety or this stress. And I've got more to me than this experience of pleasure, and this experience of sensual desires being met, which is sometimes that is a sticking point for me. And I'm sure there are others listening too who have a sticking point of getting stuck in the fulfillment of our desires. There's a lot of teachings in different spiritual traditions that point to the fulfillment of desires is actually the way that we increase our insatiable appetites. So a lot of renunciant traditions the monks, the devotees, the nuns, whoever it is in that specific tradition will renounce the worldly desires, um, eating, really plain, simple meals, and not indulging in all of these things, because they, in their teachings and in their studies, they have a belief, or at least they're experimenting with a belief, that fulfilling desires is actually the root of suffering. I'm not sure where I land in that at any moment, right? I know there's some moments in my life where I'm like, I'm gonna go abstinent. I'm only gonna eat, vegetables and rice, and try these things. And I'm not laughing at it. I'm laughing with it. I'm laughing with myself. Not because it's silly or despicable in any real sense, but because it's funny how seriously, I'll be trucking along, and then I'll just, I've got to make a change. I got to make a change. I'm going to change this. I'm going to change that. And it's not really as much of a zealotry anymore. I think that my zealotry was definitely uh, exploited in my younger days. I certainly have had times in my life where zealot would be an appropriate identification for me. That would be my pronoun if that were a possibility, for times in my life. But I think, I exhausted all of that. And I think that the propensity to do these things, I think we need to recognize that the divinity in it is our urge to seek. We're seeking something larger than us. We're seeking something bigger. We're seeking something deeper. And I think that even evidences itself in the ways in which we try to fulfill our desires through material or worldly things. I think that there's not an intention of harm there most often. Even in people who are causing harm to themselves or others, I don't think that it's necessarily the drive, the natural inert drive and inborn drive to harm. I think that that's the effect, but that's not the intent. And I think that when we can look at the intent behind these things, there are good drivers here. There are things saying, hey, there is something beyond you. Find it. We just get short stopped on these things that are meaningless, and they don't actually fill that purpose. They don't actually fill that hole that we think we have. My friend Froggy, in a performance that happened a few years back, she talked about that hole. Like, it's not a booze sized hole or a sex sized hole or a drug sized hole. It's a God sized hole. It's a love sized hole. So I think that the drive, though, is similar, right? It's just depending on how aware we are while we're sitting behind the wheel of that drive, and what we're doing, and how fulfilling it is. Well, that wasn't something I was planning on thinking about this morning. I don't know if we ever plan on thinking, but that certainly was not in my plans to think about. What I have been thinking about the last few mornings is, I've been thinking about the new book that has been published by Ray Raghunath Kappo. Uh, Raghunath is a spiritual teacher and just an enigma of a man. He comes from the world of punk rock, and if you're familiar with punk rock, and especially the punk rock and hardcore of the late 80s through today, really, but he had his probably the peak of their fame would have started in the late 80s through the mid 90s, singing with bands like Youth of Today and Shelter. Uh, and he now has a podcast, a daily bhakti yoga podcast with Kastuba Das, called Wisdom of the Sages. It's a fantastic daily podcast. I highly recommend it, uh, especially if you are at all interested in uh, Vaishnava, Sanatana Dharma, Hinduism, uh, and the Bhagavad Gita, and specifically the lineage of teachings that come through Krishna consciousness, bhakti, the bhakti traditions. It's a fantastic podcast. But Ray Cappo just recently published a book, his autobiography. It's called From Punk to Monk. And I got it on Audible. The audiobook is amazing because he reads it, so it's in his voice, and he does the voices for all the people that he's talking about. It's really entertaining. But it's also this really honest and sincere exploration of his sometimes clumsy, sometimes skillful seeking of God and of divinity and of who he really is and what he is really doing here. Uh, and it's through the experiences of all of these punk rock icons and amazing. It's sometimes I'm listening to it and I'm hearing my own story in a lot of ways, which is, one of the reasons I feel very connected to it, because it speaks to my biases of understanding. But also it's just really sincere. And the part that my son Whitman and myself and a friend were listening to this morning as I drove them to school, he was talking about when he started to learn about his own habits of speaking ill of other people. And he started learning his own habits of entering into gossip or tearing people down with his words. And he was, a lyricist and a wordsmith. And so he became really well skilled and crafted at using his words to hurt people. And he did it for the ego boost of making people laugh. And he really openly and honestly explores this. And I think about that in myself, because I definitely know that I have that ability, and I know that I've had that um, habit in my life in different times, and it's something that I actively am aware of, and I do try to um, be conscious of it and to control myself when I start to go down those addictive and habitual ways of getting praise from people by tearing somebody else down. And it's very difficult sometimes. We can justify it in so many ways. When we start to vent our frustrations about somebody else, it can quickly turn into a cut down session. And we can start to almost dehumanize other people and label and restrict them. But we don't often realize that in doing that, it's not affecting that other person. It's only negatively affecting you. The effect of that is to shut your heart down to the possibility of connection with another person. And I can't think of a more desperate and painful thing to do to ourselves than to shut out the possibility of loving connection with others. And so it's just another form of self-harm. It's just another way that we um, forget what we're here to do, which is, in my understanding, remember. Just to remember that we are a part of some thing that is larger than my personality, and it's larger than the way I see the world, and it's larger than my identity, and that we do belong. We are a part of that because we belong here. And the best way that I can figure to make the best of that experience is to just learn to open your heart and love. And that takes a lot of courage. sometimes it takes a lot of bravery because it's really easy to shut your heart down when you are scared or when you are in pain or when you are angry, judgmental. It's really easy to shut your heart out to others. But it takes a level of bravery to be vulnerable enough to open yourself to love, to open yourself to change, to understand that we need to learn how to accommodate one another. And that requires us to change our behaviors and our habitual ways of relating to the world. And in Ray Cappo's book, he talks about when he wrote the song In Praise of Others. It's from Attaining the Supreme, a Shelter album. It's a good album. And you can find it on Spotify or whatever, give Shelter a listen if you like late 80s hardcore, early 90s hardcore punk. And this is Krishna conscious punk. So this is the stories for other times. But when he talks about writing this song where he's coming to understand his habitual ways of cutting others down, and he's asking to be opened to praise others, to sing the song in praise of others is the chorus. And that really hit me this morning. It really made me think, this is the practice for today. This is what I'm going to do today. I'm going to be mindful of saying nothing to cut down someone, but to live in praise of others so that I can invite myself into connection with the world, with other people. I need to invite myself to that party. And to do that, I need to be kind, even when it's difficult. I don't have to be insincere. I don't have to lie. I don't have to butter anyone up or kiss anybody's ass. That's not what is being asked. But to be in praise of others is to understand the beauty that others contain and to really lift them up, lift others up in a sincere way, to be vulnerable and open about how these people in your life make you better at being you. How do they make it easier for you to be with your own self in your own skin? It's just a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And I'm happy to think about it this morning. So thanks, Raghunath. Doubt you're going to hear this. You're very busy as well, but I'm just putting it out in the world. Thank you for that lesson this morning. Thank you for that teaching. And I'm happy to share that through this morning podcast or broadcast or meditation, whatever it is that we're doing here together. I'm happy to share that. And yeah, today I'd like to actively practice uplifting the people in the world around me. And we'll just see what comes of that. I know what comes of cutting people down in my heart and in my mind. I know what the outcome of isolating myself away from others. I've seen that in my life. So it's just a good reminder. We are not here to be in judgment. We're here to belong with one another. We're here to belong. Sometimes it's messy. Sometimes it requires standing out and standing up against something. But in everything, it's always good to have love and openness in your heart, I think. It feels better to me. So I don't know about you all, but I'm ready to share a few breaths together, because that always helps me. So why don't we start finding our place in our bodies right now, we want to find our meditation posture. And that meditation posture isn't necessarily going to look the same for everyone. It's not a prescription to sit in a certain way. There are plenty of traditions that will teach those very valuable lessons. But for right now, for this practice, our meditation posture is simply finding a small space of balance within. And this practice is a devotional practice to the breath. So that means that as we come into this practice, we want to facilitate the body's ability to breathe in and to breathe out. That's all we're doing here. Right now, we're just going to experience what it is to breathe in and to breathe out. So you might be seated as I am in a chair with your feet flat to the floor. You might be on a pillow or rug with your legs crossed in any number of positions. But wherever you are right now, just try to lengthen your spine, opening up the front of your body, and receive breath. We don't need to take heroic, gargantuan breaths. Just gentle breath through the nose to the bottom of the belly. And gently and slowly releasing out of the mouth. Let your shoulders relax. Bring your shoulder blades together just slightly in the back. Starting at the top of the head, just move your awareness down the body, relaxing everything as you move through. Relaxing the top of the head, the forehead, the back of the head, the eyebrows, the eyes, the ears, the neck, the jaw. Just release. Gently releasing the internal tension you hold in your face, in your head and neck. Gently releasing the tension in your shoulders, your chest and back as you breathe in and breathe out. And as you relax the body, you can bring your focus of awareness into your heart. I'm just going to focus on our heart this morning, and we want to start to picture the people in our lives and start bringing them into your heart. As if your heart is a bag and you're just picking up pieces of the puzzle and putting it away. Start with the ones that are easiest for you to love. Just put them in your heart today. Those people in your life that bring you into that space of belonging with ease. partners, children, lovers, friends, teachers, parents, siblings, whoever it is. Breathing in, just start putting them in that space in your heart. And then start bringing in the people in your life that you haven't told how you love them, or the acquaintances that just make your day feel better. The cashier you interact with, the librarian, a coworker you aren't friends with but enjoy seeing, just start putting them into your heart. Every couple of breaths, make sure you're picturing yourself and putting yourself into your heart over and over and over again. Love yourself. You have to love yourself. Picture yourself moving into your own heart. I want you to make your top 5 list of people that you love. Be there. Be on your own list. And then start bringing in the people you have difficulty with. The people you disagree with completely, the people you find it hard to like, let alone love. Just find a little place in your heart for them. Start bringing them into your heart. This is how we can pray for others to become loving and healthy, caring and cared for. Put yourself in there again. For the times when you have difficulty being in your own skin, just take that person, that you, and put that in your heart and love that person. Love that selfish person, that person that throws fits or picks fights. Love that person. Love that messy person who forgets appointments or doesn't ever fold their laundry. Just love that person. There's always more room in your heart. So don't close it off. If you never close your heart, it will always have room for more. Just love. For right now, just love. Be courageous enough to just love in this moment. Thank you for being here today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You are in my heart. I love you. And it's nothing personal. So bring this practice into your day if you can today. Bring your practice into the world with taking from the teachings of Ray Raghunath Kappo. To be in praise of others. See what happens to you when you spend your day being in praise of others. And we'll check back in another day. Maybe we'll be angry tomorrow. Who knows? Thanks for listening. Thanks for taking part in the practice. Thanks for sharing this with the world. Reach out to me anytime. My name is Michael. You can email me at journeyhomemeditation@gmail.com. I'm happy to be here. Hariom.